Welcome to a very hot and sweaty Porto in Portugal. You're looking at Norbert Mikelit's fastest after the first foray in what is a 30-minute Q1 session on this Portuguese track. Martin Haven and alongside me Harry Folkard. And Harry, really for touring cars, perhaps the ideal place. Real cars, real racing on real roads.
Yeah, it's a fantastic circuit, and we always see great, exciting racing from the touring cars on street circuits, and I'm sure this weekend will be no different. It certainly wasn't the last time we were here.
Well, we saw Norbert Mikelits in the garage, fastest man so far in his Zengo Motorsport Honda, as in comes Thiago Monteiro. Spectacular turbo blow up in second free practice this morning on his first flying lap, and it seems as though they are not yet sorted. He has not set a fast lap. Because it's a street circuit, Q1, instead of being 20 minutes, is 30 minutes, and Q2, instead of being 10, is 15. So he has still got some time to get a time in. There's Tim Coronel, twin brother Tom is out on track. And here's Alex McDowell in one of the two Bamboo Engineering Chevy Cruises. Oh my goodness! And just as we were seeing him in slow-mo, loses it under braking, and that's a very big shunt.
Yeah, that's both ends of the car. I mean, I'm sure they'll be able to sort it, but not for Q, not to get it out before the rest of qualifying. That's, you know, it's both axles and front and rear damage, so that's Alex out, unfortunately.
Well, this is the ultimate distillation, racing broken right rear wheel as well, suspension's completely gone. The ultimate distillation of what you do as a racing driver, absolutely no mistakes at all. As you can see, concrete walls and metal barriers, you're just racing in a tunnel basically, and any mistake is going to hurt the car, if not you.
Yeah, and especially this circuit in particular is very, very bumpy, and you'll see that in the attitude of the cars as they're bouncing around, coming over the curbs, and it makes a little mistake like Alex made there very, very easy to do. You're crossing white lines, so you're kind of going through different amounts of grip. You can go from having a lot of grip on the tarmac to you turning over a line, and all of a sudden the back might move, and you can see, look at the attitude of the car there, just moving around under brakes.
I mean, it's great because you really see the car moving a lot. Gabriele Tarquini comes out of the final chicane, rushing over the grid towards the line to complete a lap. And 0.88 behind. That puts him into fourth place, immediately pushed down into fifth place by a lap from Tom Chilton, who goes second fastest behind Norbert Mikelits. And here's Tom in the final chicane. Right, just hits the sausage, and that normally is enough to put you in the outside barrier, but I think the barriers have been moved back a little bit since we were here 2 years ago. That chicane has always been a really tricky part of the track. There are some very fast portions of this track, and it's a track where mechanical grip is important, and it's always seemed to be pretty good for BMW as well as the front-running front-wheel drive cars.
Yeah, we saw Daste 2 years ago in the second race where he started. He got a reverse grid pull, and he really held on to it. He threw it away in the end by an unforced error, a little mistake, getting on the throttle a little bit too early, but you know, he really held on there. He was convincingly quick, and I'm sure we'll see the BMWs being fast here this weekend as well. And they're obviously well damped, they're well developed, these cars, and you know, there was a lot more street circuits back in the day when these cars were being developed.
Well, news, of course, this week, the big news is that we have a new manufacturer confirmed coming to the championship for 2014. Citroën have announced officially in the last couple of days that they will come to the World Touring Car Championship, and that means that we will have the presence of Sebastian Loeb on the grids. This is his new venture away from rallying. And so for everybody here, that's going to be very entertaining indeed to have a man of such fantastic World Championship stature. 9 World Rally Championships. Clearly shows the man can pedal. He's raced at Le Mans this weekend. He's doing the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. And the Citroën team members here, finally, in team shirts. They've been seen around and about in civvies before, just on a little kind of fact-finding mission. When the decision was finally announced, now they're here officially. So looking forward to that. And there will also be some rule changes to developments of the cars, a little bit more aggressive aero packages, a little bit more power for the cars as well for 2014 onwards. Well, there on the bottom of the screen, you can see the times at the moment. Chilton and Muller, second and third. This was the scene of Chevrolet's first ever 1-2-3 result. RML posted that the first time they came here with the Cruze. And both races last time, 2 years ago, were won by the Chevy Cruze. Only one larder going out today, Harry, and that's James Thompson.
Yeah.
Mikhail Kozlowski watching it from the garage.
Yeah, unfortunately, just rubbed the wall, which, as you mentioned before, it's so easy to do around these sort of street circuits because there's no runoff on the exit. I mean, it's obvious to see you make a minor mistake and you're in the wall, and obviously they're pretty unforgiving, as we've just seen. And he just clipped the wall in FP2, and it was enough to bend the front subframe, and they didn't have a spare one on hand.
Well, Norbert Mikelitz, fastest man in the Zengo Motorsport Honda. Looking here at Mark Basseng, up in the first sector by 1200 and only 68 thousandths off the fastest lap at the moment. This is a really good run from him. Of course, every track he comes to, brand new pretty much. He's never driven front-wheel drive race cars before. The reigning FIA GT1 world champion. Now let's see what kind of a lap he can put together. Whoa, okay, helicopter's making me quite unwell there. Tom Coronel coming into the pit lane. Basseng flies the chicane. Where is he going to end up? He goes into 4th place, and if he can get that car into Q2 in that sort of position, then suddenly we really might see what Mark Basseng can produce. I'm afraid he's not been able to get the best out of himself or the car, I think, to do himself justice yet this season. Great overhead view, Harry, as well, of just where we are. This is a former home of the Portuguese Grand Prix, twice, in 1958 and 1960, they raced on this track. Then it was cobblestones with tram lines up the middle. Now we're still going around the same park, raced on by Sterling Moss, Jack Brabham and all those guys in the late 50s, early 60s, but perhaps a little quicker.
Yeah, it's great to see that we can keep these nostalgic circuits alive, and fantastic that it's done every other year, because as you can imagine, the effort to put this thing together, this entire event, must be absolutely monumental, and that's why it's every other year. But you know, it's great to see it still happening, and as you mentioned, these cars have probably got a lot more grip than they had in the 50s, and I'm not saying they've got any more balls, because I'm guessing it's probably quite a lot more dangerous then, but yeah, no, fantastic to see it still alive.
Well, now you see concrete walls and metal barriers. Then it was straw bales in front of trees and telegraph poles, and literally people stood on the pavement, which was the extreme edge of the circuit. So, yeah, a very different world, but a very, very similar layout. If you brought Sterling or Jack Brabham or any of those guys here, they would recognise the area, the circuit, the Avenida de Boa Vista, which is the long street from the city out to the sea, and they're now climbing up it. It's a sort of dual carriageway, and originally the tram lines ran straight down it towards the big circle down by the sea. That's where the trams would turn around. On the left, his mum with the beard, obviously Tiago Montero's dad. He's out on track, and I was hoping that there would be no knock-on effect of that turbo problem in the engine. It looks as though and sounds as though it's running clean, and boy, he needs that. He's not just Portuguese, of course, Harry. This is where he was born and bred. He used to cycle to school across the park and through these roads.
Yes, exactly, and he always has a big following here. There's a lot of Tiago fans here, and obviously Tiago's come from Formula One, so he's well established in the motorsport world within Portugal. He has had some rotten luck this year as well. That car's, no fault of Honda, but it just seems to have had a gremlin in it. No matter where it's gone, there's always been something else which has been recurring its ugly head.
I did say if it wasn't for bad luck, he would have had no luck at all this season. And again, free practice, turbo blows. Whose car? Of course it's his. But remember, early on in the year, it was the Zengo Motorsport car of Norbert Mikelitz that kept getting hit by other things, including other people's debris from crashes. Now his luck has changed. And, Valentino Rossi has just won his first race in MotoGP since Malaysia 2010. He hadn't forgotten how to ride. Class is permanent. Form is what changes, and that's what Tiago's showing here. He's got the speed. He only did the first free practice session, didn't do even one flying lap, I don't think, in FP2, and immediately he's going out and laying down a lap, because you've got to get on with it. You've got to hustle. We're inside the final 10 minutes, and he needs to get another good run in. Yeah,
I think he's obviously, it's not too bad because of this extra 10 minutes that we've got in the FP1, so he should be able to get away with that, I think. And Ivan Muller's just in the fastest first sector of everybody.
Yep. So Muller's on a flyer. Thompson, 0.34 behind. James Thompson, this narrow track car, like the Chevy Lachetti used to be. Short wheelbase as well, should be very nimble around these streets with its Orica engine. We know it's got speed. It showed that at Monza. It showed that at Marrakesh until Jimmy put it in the wall, exiting the final corner when the car got away. Something broke on it, didn't it, and put him in the wall. But then he was, in with a real shout at being in the top 4 or 5. He's gone 5th quickest now.
You can see that car, it's moving around more so than others, and it's obviously they're developing the car every time it comes out, and it looked like it had a bit of understeer early on in the session, but obviously he's got a time out of it there on new rubber.
Gabriele Tarquini on a hot lap in the Castrol Honda around the Circuito do Boa Vista in Porto, Portugal. The final European hurrah for the FIA World Touring Car Championship. From here, the cars will not be seeing the workshops again until after Christmas. They head off to Argentina, to California, and then to the Far East, to China, Japan, one as well. I think Nuki had a big shot there as well. It's very, very common to just launch off that curb. Down at the end of the front straight, corners 2 and 3. Sweeping around the Via del Castello. And here's Daryl Young, second on the podium in the GTE AM class last weekend at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And dazzling through the chicane. You got to really attack hard, but you've got to avoid those blue sausages, Harry. They'll leave a wheel hanging off the car if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, that actually looked like you got away with that quite lightly because, like you say, sometimes when you hit those, it can completely deflect the car away and point you towards the wall, which is not a good thing.
Daryl, 1.5 away. At the moment, he's 17th. This is a personal best lap. Good second sector, 37.99 seconds. Let's see if he can get in within 1.7, 1.8 seconds. No, is he aborting this lap? No, that doesn't look as quick as it ought to be, I don't think, down the hill. 4 minutes and 10 seconds remaining, not much time.
I think that you'll see a few other guys who are in the danger zone. Like you might get the Rob Huffs, the James Nashes, Oriolas. Yeah. I think they're going to have time for one more run, and they can't afford not to, really. It's going to be so important qualifying around here because, like any street circuit, overtaking is definitely not an easy thing.
Ivan Muller sitting on pole at the moment, but the door is closed. What are we seeing here? Tiago drifting out wide and getting out the way of Freddie Bart, who's on the flyer. Bart racing with a broken hand. It is screwed and plated back together after an accident in Russia. And well held Stefano D'Aste. And in fact, the first time the bandages came off his injured hand was this morning, a couple of minutes before free practice, to put on his racing glove. So, yeah.
Oh, Young did improve on that lap there, but he's just he's gone from 17th to 14th, so unfortunately not quite enough. He's going to have to do another run as well.
Well, Thiago Monteiro needs something as well. He is out of the top 12, which is the cut-off for going through into P2. Coming into the pits, he is coming into the pits. 3 minutes remain. Whatever he needs it now. Michel Nuki, you saw there being scrutinised in the weighbridge. He is second at the moment, so he won't need to go back out. And little worried faces. Let's have a listen to what the team radio's got to say.
Yeah, have to come in, no power.
So what we saw in free practice was huge billowing clouds of oil. Now that's normally associated with turbo seal failures, and if it's upstream of the cylinders, then of course the engine is trying to compress oil as it goes through the cylinders as well, and I suspect that might have had a knock-on effect. Of course, that is just surmise. Hugo Vallant, damaged front end after free practice 1, went off down at the bottom of the front straight into, well, basically into corner 2, and skidded off into the barriers. It's all take back up. Blue car, the blue Chevrolet there, by the way, is Pepe Oriola, who was third fastest in both free practice sessions. First time out in the Chevy. I went up to him after FP1 and I said, hey, Pepe, only third. Oh, Fernando Monche's in the barriers. Understeers off. And he said, oh, come on, I've only done 200 metres in the car. He had a quick trip behind the pits and then out onto the track.
Yeah, Oriola's doing a great job, as he always does. Yeah. He's been really fast in that Seat, which is a compromised car compared to the Chevrolet, as we well know, but he's jumped in that and straight away gone fast, and the difference between the two cars is absolutely huge, and not just in the technology differences, but the wheelbase length. It's a total different animal to drive.
I said to him, how different does it feel? And he said, oh, it's so smooth. He said, if you didn't know which car was quicker, you would swear the Seat was the quicker car. It's more aggressive with its acceleration. It moves around a lot more. It's more lively. He said, this is just so smooth and so comfortable. You can't believe it's so much quicker. But even in his hands, first time out, it has been much quicker. So let's have a look at Rob Huff then, trying to get himself a little further up the order.
Banani's just jumped James Nash as well for the last,
Nash is
last
out.
position.
Still on track though, James Nash.
Yeah, just gone out, I guess, with a final tyre run.
Huff's 11th, can't really afford not to go through. As you said, Harry, if you're stuck in the midfield on a street circuit, making headway is difficult. 6th fastest for him. Gabriele Tarquini keeping the inside of the car cool as well. Track temperature here, 36 degrees and climbing. Or was it 63 degrees? 63 degrees and climbing. So yeah,
ambient.
Air temperature 36 degrees. So inside the cockpit, literally hotter than a sauna.
Yeah, it would be absolutely horrific in those cars.
Mark Bassang comes towards us. One of the 3 All-Inkle Seat Leons. Let's see what he's got. 1.0 away. That will put him into the top half dozen. Still 9th. Let's see what he's got on this lap. Personal first sector best. So as you can see there in green highlights, carries the speed through the chicane, takes the checkered flag and stays in 9th. It was not an improved lap, but a best first and third sector. So it all went astray over the top of the hill there, Harry, where some of those really tricky off-camber corners are.
Yeah, and you can see a lot of the front-wheel drive cars are struggling with understeer fairly early on. We've got James Nash now, he's in 13th position, just outside. Yep. He's on a lap, so be interesting to see if he can jump back into that top 10.
Absolutely right. Don't think he's taken a checkered flag yet. Tomo's on a lap as well. 10th fastest for him so far. This is a really hot lap from Thompson. Look how aggressive the car is, or how aggressive Jimmy is being with the car. Now, unfortunately, the high camera view here doesn't show you just the sort of peaks and drop-aways here. Road drops out to the barrier there, takes you off towards the barriers, and there's James Nash. He's on a quick one as well. Mehdi Banani. Tom Boardman is back as well. He's trying to get a run in.
This is going to be the final throw of the dice for all these guys. Obviously, the checkered flag's out, and they're all on new rubber.
Absolutely, James Nash. First and second sectors have been better than anything he's done before. James Thompson best in the first sector of his runs. Nash there. Oh, and Banani behind him. That's what the noise was we heard. Banani has lost his chance, I'm afraid, to progress. He is in 12th place. Now, if Nash goes quicker, Banani is out and can't respond. Nash squirming under braking. Harry really asking everything of the car. Yeah. All or nothing now. Checkered flag, and he goes up into 8th. That's a really good lap. Personal best lap.
Yeah, that was a great effort.
Yeah. Funny how friends and family come to the seaside race. What's that about then?
Yeah, there's a lot more people in the garage than there was in Russia, I've noticed.
What about Tomo? Tomo stays in 11th, but that is a top 12 run. He goes through into Q2 again. And Banani, very unfortunate for the Moroccan driver, doesn't get through. So your fast 12, Muller, Nukia, Tarquini, Mikulits, Chilton, Huff, Coronel, Nash, Engstler, Bassang, Thompson and Oriola. Banani, Daste, Young and the rest of the field miss out, I'm afraid, on a second run in Q2.
Banani was unlucky there, in fairness to him. It's so easy to make those tiny little errors, and you know, it looks like a lot worse than it really is. It's just the sort of thing you'd get away with on a normal circuit.
Yeah, he'd have just been up on the curb, wouldn't he, instead of into the tyre barrier?
Yeah, or run on the runoff or on the grass, but it certainly wouldn't put you in the wall like that.
No, and that, I'm afraid, is the delights of a street circuit. You know, they all know coming here, to get the perfect lap, you've got to get the perfect lap. And if you're not quite perfect, I'm afraid the circuit is going to punish you for it. Well, great view of this pit lane area. Again, all constructed just for last weekend, the historic Grand Prix of Porto, and this weekend's World Touring Car Championship encounter. And it's a biennial event. In fact, you could see it quite clearly when we flew in yesterday, eventually, to Porto. Just as we banked over the city, the Avenida de Boa Vista that runs from right in the heart of the city all the way down to the seashore is very clear, big line straight down, and you could see the paddock area quite clearly. So it is absolutely scorching here. We have got a couple of minutes until we get into Q2. Stay with us for more action from Porto. Second period of qualifying getting underway here in Porto. for rounds 13 and 14 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. We're right down on the seafront of the historic Circuito de Boa Vista. The big circle you can see there, that was the turning circle for the tramway. And as the cars now make a left, 39 degrees, 40 degrees of cockpit temperature inside Tom Coronel's BMW. And he's got the door open and he's not doing anything. It is going to only get hotter inside his and everybody else's car. The fastest 12 from the first period of qualifying going through into Q2. And Harry Folkard on the street circuit, because of the nature of the track and the likelihood of yellow flags, a longer second Q2 period, not 10 minutes but 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's needed as well, because there's quite often you can run into traffic. Somebody might make a mistake in front of you, so you do need a little bit of extra time. And this is one of the better street circuits. It's a bit longer. The lap's pretty long here. It's almost 4 kilometers, so it is better from that point of view, but you still do need as much time as you can possibly get.
So Van Muller, fastest man in the Q1 period, but that's irrelevant. From 13th on down, the positions that they had are fixed for both races. So local man Thiago Monteiro, born, bred and brought up here in Porto, where he still lives. He will start both races in his hometown in 17th position. It could hardly have gone worse for him.
He looked absolutely devastated there as well on that the footage of him getting out of the car.
So, with the exception of James Thompson's Lada, all cars out on track. And they will have one fresh set of tyres probably remaining. 3 Yokohama Trophy drivers. You could see Franz Engsler. You can also see James Nash and Michel Nukia in their Chevrolets out on track. And the rest all running at the front of the field, including the blue Chevrolet of Pepe Oriola. We ride on board with the Spaniard, first time ever out in this car, learning all sorts of things about a very different machine to the Seat that he's driven ever since he came into the World Touring Car Championship. And Harry, kind of a difficult place to take on a car you've never raced before.
Yeah, I mean, I wondered before the weekend whether it was a great decision to jump in just here, but I mean, they're obviously confident. Pepe is confident to do it, and you know, he's proved in free practice and in qualifying that he's managing to get a lot out of the car. It's just whether you can maximise it, but it makes sense to jump in the better machinery as soon as possible. And I just wonder if he did a test, not that I know of, but I don't know if he may have had a...
No, apparently he's done 200 metres before he went out in FP1.
Yeah.
Literally 200 metres, just to go up and down the gearbox, maybe a couple of gears. OK, looking here at Norbert Mikulec, again, very quick in Q1. The Hungarian driver in the orange and black Zengo Motorsport Honda Civic. This is the same car as the factory Castrol Hondas. And again, underlining just what a talent this ex-gamer has. There's the boss, Zoltan Zengo, that he is taking the pace right to Gabriele Tarquini, former world champion in his factory Castrol Honda, and being a real thorn in the side of the factory Hondas. It's great news for Honda that they've got another car there, and it's great news for Zengo that they're able to find the pace in it and in their driver.
Yeah, it's great that he's so fast. And the last round in Russia, we heard in the press conference after the second race, somebody asked him, how do you feel to be constantly faster than the 2 Works cars? And he kind of laughed it off and just said, that's just how it is, and I'm in discussion. So, maybe next year we'll see him come back as a full factory driver.
Well, I don't think so. I think the plan next year, as it was this year, as they go around the top part of the circuit here, led by Van Muller, the plan is to run 2 Zengo cars, and that's still what their plan is. They were planning to run them this year, but the car arrived so late, I mean, literally only a week or so before the first race weekend, that they scratched the plan. They only had 1 chassis anyway, so they are hoping to run 2 cars again next year. Of course, next year's cars, with the change of regulations, might have to be substantially different. Tom Coronel and Franz Engsler in their BMWs, riding those curbs. Yikes.
You can see how the rear-wheel drives are on the front end there, just with it picking up the front wheel over the curb.
Michel Nukia, of course, a fellow Dane, remembering Alan Simonson in his race this weekend, as Pepe Oriola has made contact with the wall. And that was always going to be an issue here. A car he's never pushed that hard before in, and this is a tough track on which to try and do it. Oh, I've got it. That's the Tom Chilton moment, isn't it? Tom
Yeah.
had one of those earlier on in FP1.
Nearly became his moment again there, actually.
Yeah, he nearly became part of Pepe's moment. Of course, the reason that he's racing it here is because if they don't have it here, it's not going to go on the rest of the flyaway race or the rest of the faraway races, because it's going by boat from Europe after this weekend. So they leave, I guess, probably on Tuesday this week, next week, to head off to Argentina. So if it isn't here, then it won't go, and if it is here, why would you bother driving to Seat?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you're paying a fairly substantial slice of cash to have the car. So, all right, it's unfortunate it's the street track, but that's the way it is. On board with Tom Coronel, and Oriola's car, I'm afraid, he's going to have to sit at the side of the track.
I wonder whether they'll bring a yellow flag out to get that out of the way.
He's offline here, isn't he, somewhere? Yeah, there he is. And that is difficult. This is a really tough corner, very tight. There's Darrell O'Young. Second at Le Mans last weekend. I was hoping that might have been a bit of luck that might turn his season around, but session stop, red flag with 8 minutes to go. I'm afraid there's not really much of an option. He's not online, but on the other hand, that overpass is not very wide. So
yeah, you don't. If somebody else gets it wrong in a similar manner, they're going to be at the back of him more.
Well, of course, he didn't get it wrong there, so they'll go off at turn 2 and hopefully not park right where he is. But again, yeah, stationary car in qualifying, not ideal.
Exactly. It's on the outside of a really fast corner, isn't it? You don't need something stopped there.
Well, nevertheless, he will finish in or start in the top 12. In fact, at the moment, unless James Thompson goes out on track, he will start no worse than 11th, because Tomo has not gone out of the pit lane yet. Whereas Pepe at the moment is in 8th. Now, depending on who improves in the restarted session, he might still end up 2nd, 3rd, or actually, if he gets shoved down a couple into 10th, he might end up on the reverse pole for race 2. You know, anything could easily still happen here. Cars coming down into pit road after boiling in their cars. The fastest drivers in qualifying will be taken into the media centre for interviews, where the air conditioning stopped working about 11 o'clock this morning. So I would think it's comfortably in the high 30s in the tent at the moment. There's not going to be much respite. James Thompson was about to leave the pit lane, Harry, but is being pushed back now by the team.
Yeah, maybe it'll be possibly to put some more tyre warmers back on the car, just to make sure that they'll be his best set of tyres sat there ready to go, I'd imagine.
Well, Pepe came into sight already fully committed on the lock stops, but he was on the dirt, wasn't he? He was further offline to his right, and it drifted further and further on the dirt, and less grip the further it went off.
Yeah, obviously we didn't see the start of the incident, but it's hard to say whether, you know, maybe turning a bit deep, or the back end just got away from him slightly. And a lot of these guys will be running with like rear toe out and these compliant rear links that we've spoken about before. So that's why we're seeing them so edgy on the brakes, why you're seeing them moving around so much over the bumps. And in a car that you've not driven before, it's an easy mistake to make.
Well, there's his girlfriend doing her best to keep cool in the tent. The merciful thing is the beach is literally just beyond turn 2 here, so when it all gets a bit hot, we can head off there to cool down. There's his dad, and again, a little bit disappointed, I'm sure, with that ending, but very pleased indeed that they've got what looks like a great weapon in Pepe's hands. New sponsor as well, the Cali Macau. That's an exclusive casino in Macau. That's a real high. We don't even need to know where it is, Harry, because there's no question they're ever going to let us in, because that is a proper high rollers casino. Yeah. No table limit, that kind of high.
Yeah, I don't think they'll accept my my fiver on black.
I don't think so. So 8.5 minutes, that's enough for, well, it's enough for a run on what they've got, and maybe another tyre run. Citroën Racing shirts officially for the first time in the paddock. A couple of media people and the boss of Citroën Racing there. Well, also William de Brecquelaire, the Honda boss, is down in the pits. Let's hear from him. He's with Ben.
A brief respite here in qualifying to have a chance to catch up on the Thiago Montoro story. You were with him. He's incredibly upset, so he won't speak to us at the moment. William, what did he say to you?
Well, of course, he's really disappointed, and it's incredible that since the beginning of the year, he seems to attract all the bad luck. Well, against that, nothing you can do. The team tried to, well, replace actually the turbo after the free practice, but you know, it's do it on time, but 2 hours is not enough to make it. So unfortunately, it was nearly done, and it couldn't last the full qualifying session. So that's really unfortunate for him.
So the problem was, again, another turbo failure then?
Yeah, well, it's not another turbo failure, but it's the fact that we didn't have the time to replace correctly the turbo and make the necessary final adjustment. And once you have a small leak with the air, then you lose your power.
For the number 3 car, though, you have a lot lighter car this weekend. Are you hoping to be able to challenge Ivan Muller?
Well, we are here to challenge, of course, and now looking at the situation, well, we have one car with Norbert who is at the front at the moment. Gabriel, I don't know what is his strategy at the moment. Maybe he stays there, or maybe he will try to catch up and go at the front again. We'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Well, as Willem de Breckenlaer has pointed out, the best Honda is the Zengo Motorsport orange and black car of Norbert Mikelitz. And as we talked about a little bit earlier, going very well. There's, oh, Pauline's left the beach. My goodness. Well, I guess she's here with the kids as well. Very busy beach just outside the track, Harry. I think we'll have to go and maybe have a peaceful libation in the sunshine a little bit later.
Absolutely chocker. I've never seen a beach look so busy.
Hottest day of the year here so far in Porto, we believe. That's certainly what was being forecast. The big red thing, incidentally, just going sort of to the top right-hand side of your screen, that's a giant version of the traditional fishing nets that they use here. So that's what that is. It's a big red net.
We actually went to the, I mean, I don't suppose they still use those nets, but had a really nice packed set of sardines last night for my dinner.
Do you not? I bet they do still use those nets here. Yeah, it's a wonderful place. Of course, Porto, the home of port wine, Portugal wine, and became very, very popular because it wouldn't spoil on long sea voyages, i.e. back to the UK or further afield. And so, well, probably not the ratings or the seamen, but I imagine certainly the officers would have enjoyed port in their cabin on a long voyage. And it's been a very major British outpost here. I mean, most of the major port warehouses all the way down the Douro River in the centre of the city. They come down the river from the highlands where it's all grown, and most of the port wine houses are names that you all recognise. Coburn's and Cooper's and so
Taylor's,
on.
Graham's.
Yeah, many British names. It's.
I heard an interesting fact last night. Apparently it was because when Napoleon stopped us making brandy, they had to come here and that's where port came from. Obviously it's fortified wine, so they added the brandy into wine to make something equally evil. And
well, a British dinner would not be a British dinner without port and or Madeira, and you know that's exactly why. So here we go then, enough of the drinking talk, or perhaps more of that later. 6 minutes to go and a few more seconds. Cars going out on track. Tom Chilton this time first out as he moves around this new area just at the top of the Parco de Boa Vista.
I think Tom must have had his lap ruined previously by obviously when we saw Pepe go off in front of him. Saw him have to take avoiding action, and that would be enough just to cost you half a second. Yeah,
we've all been to the ice cream van doing very brisk business. Looks like Enks has done enough. So, okay, I'm fine. Yeah, wherever, somewhere top 10, I don't mind. 7th, fine. 10th, fine. Doesn't matter. I don't think he's going out for another lap. I think he will keep himself and his tyres for tomorrow. So James Thompson is the one who really needs a lap. As cars will start now to build up speed, heading off downhill. And this is a really long, fast section of the track, Harry. And I guess down here, as they get onto the braking for the final chicane, will be the fastest part of this circuit.
Yeah, and that corner there, you can actually see it's got a lot of camber and here as well. So you can carry so much speed, even though it's quite a tight corner. They arrive in this braking zone and this one again. You can see the camber there, and they arrive down here, and this is where we're seeing them shuffling around on the tyres.
Well, Franz Engsler and Tom Coronel remain in the garage. They have used their fresh tyres already. Norbert Mikelitz hasn't gone out either in his Honda, but Gabriele Tarquini is in the factory Honda, and James Thompson is out on track for the first time in Q. And the Lada driver will need a good lap here. He's following James Nash's Chevrolet. There's his girlfriend Zoe. Tomo's, not James's, don't worry. And this could be a very good racetrack for the Lada. They got a good result, the best ever for Lada in the World Touring Car Championship in race 1 in Russia, of course, at Moscow Raceway. And then he was in the 4-way disaster in front of Ivan Muller. Four-way battle, four wide down the front straight that all went wrong in race 2. Mikhail Kozlowski damaged the car in FP2, couldn't get it back together for qualifying, unfortunately, so he will start right at the very back of the grid. But Russia's hopes will be on James Thompson here.
I wonder if they'll be able to get that car sorted tonight. It's debatable. Normally a subframe is a kind of take that part out and replace with another part, and without that, the extra part to come back in, you can't really kind of bodge it up and weld it or anything.
Ivan Muller, fastest first sector of anyone. He's already 6/10 clear of Michal Nukia, second quickest, and he's going quicker again. Nukia is on a PB, so too is Tom Chilton in the other RML Chevy. Nukia, of course, won last time out, race 2 in Moscow, his second race win of the year. I tell you what, there'll be a very tearful day, and if he can put a win together this weekend in honour of his late friend Alan Simonson. So Muller flying. Second sector not as quick as he's gone before, not a personal best even.
The lap times have tumbled though from FP1.
Well, the temperature's going up, but so much more rubber down on the track and so much less sand and leaves and everything else that you get being blown in by the wind in the morning.
There's a lot less like air pressure as well as in wind pushing you down the straights or necessarily holding the car up.
Well, it's a headwind, isn't it? It comes off the sea up the straight in the morning. Muller goes quickest again. A 2-minute 5.483, 2-minute 5.5 from Tom Chilton, only 1900ths behind. Nukia's third, Mikulits is parked, he goes down to fourth, Tomo is fifth, Tarquini is sixth. The Lada out qualifying the Castrol Honda so far on one flying lap. 10 minutes to go.
That's a great lap from that car in all fairness.
That's a great lap. Mikulits is back out. Okay, nice work by Zoltan Zengo. Let everybody go for one, and as this is a sort of top 10 shootout job, as they're on their slowdown lap, you're on your warm-up lap.
Yeah.
Good call, like that thinking. What do you want on a street circuit traffic, Harry? No traffic, no one else out in the way.
No, exactly.
That's what he's going to get.
As long as they don't accidentally hold him up, which we've seen earlier on this season, and I'm sure no one will do it deliberately, but just in case.
Tom Coronel is going to be on pole for race 2. He's currently in 10th. Nobody's going to go slower now than him.
Yeah. I wonder if Engster will be a little bit disappointed that he got out for his ice cream that early, even if he had no tyres.
Well, he had no tyres, so, you know, he wasn't going to go any quicker. He obviously figured, and I think I'm right in saying it's his first time into Q2 this year, so ticking a lot of boxes. Clock running on Michal Nukia, 2800ths off in the first sector, but that's not even a personal best. So unlikely on sector 1 time to improve, and that looks pretty pedestrian, Harry.
Yeah, it does a little bit, doesn't it?
No, he's not going quickly. Look, he's 5 seconds off.
Yeah, maybe.
But, of course, if he gets back to the line before we get the checkered flag out, he can go for a run then. What's Huff doing? 3rd, 4th. This is, again, very pedestrian. What they do not need in the Zengo Motorsport team is for everybody to be mimsing around and blocking the road when Norbert Mikulits gets onto his quick lap. So if these guys are going in, would they kindly hurry up and go in and let Mikulits do what he wants? Let the dog see the rabbit.
That is a concern when you set off last in the session and everybody else is on their in lap. You know, they don't want to take anything else out the tyre, and they want to let the car cool down a little bit and give it an easy run on the way in. Well,
Mikulits has started his lap. Fastest final sector of the session for him. He is now rushing down towards the end of the lap. You saw Zoltan Zengo with his fingers crossed.
Look, he's going to come across the traffic that we're talking about there.
Yeah, but he's starting a fast lap now. 48 seconds to go. Everybody else is going into the pits. They could not have timed this better. Is Zoltan Zengo putting Norbert Mikulits in a perfect position to snatch pole away from world champion Ivan Muller, former world champion Ivan Muller. Here we go, into turn 1. Turn 2, the hard right-hander where we've seen so many instances, long sweeping viaduct over the river. And this is a really tricky change of surface and tightening up left-hander onto the Avenida de Boavista. Tarquini's in the way, but pulls out. A great opportunity for Mikulits, but what was the first sector time? Oh, it's not showing on our screen. I wonder why not. Here we go, up towards the end of the Avenida. changes across from one carriageway to the other.
There you go.
0.327 away. Okay, it is a personal best. And a 50.2 first sector, quicker, well, not quite quicker than Ivan. Showing replay again. Ooh, whoa, backing it in, MotoGP style, but all four wheels off.
That's why his final
that won't
sector
count.
is that not his final sector of the outlap?
No, that is the chicane going across the Avenida de Boa Vista. So he was all four wheels off the track. This lap will not be allowed to stand, I don't think, and that's a real shame.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
he ought to back out of it, I think, because all he's going to do is burn up his tyres. Yep.
Yeah, you're right, Martin. That's exactly what happened. I just wondered if that was what made him quick in that, in that final chicane.
No, I think he was getting himself fully wound up to qualifying pace and really bringing the tyres in hard. Well, that's a real shame, because that means that, again, qualifying has fizzled out minutes before the end with Ivan Muller on pole position. Cruising around to the pits now. Another pole for the Frenchman. And that makes it, well, I'm starting to lose count. Are we now into the 20s? How many pole positions this year? That's his 5th this season. Only Gabriele Tarquini has been on pole as well. And his career poles now up to 19. So he has got as many this season as he did in his first 3 years of touring car racing. Of world touring car racing. Let's correct that. Before somebody says, no, he had 4 in his second year in British Touring Car Championship. Or the French Super Tourism, or one of those, we don't care. That's so, part down there, Norbert Mikulits in the Parc Fermé. He will start in 4th place. It'll be Muller and Chilton, an all-RML Chevrolet front row. Nukia 3rd in his Chevy. Mikulits the best of the Hondas, ahead of Thompson's Lada and Tarquini's Castrol Honda. And the reverse pole for race 2. Tom Coronel and James Nash on row 1. Mark Basseng and Rob Huff on row 2. Well, you'll be able to see all the action tomorrow from the Circuito de Boa Vista. Join Harry Folkard and me, Martin Haven, then for rounds 13 and 14 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. Till then, bye-bye.